So hopefully everyone can see my title screen there. So welcome to Video Accessibility. This is the Winter 2024 edition. And my name is Gaby Jongh, and I am a member of the IT accessibility team. And joining me today is Terrill Thompson, and he will be talking a little bit later on in this presentation as well. And today is Wednesday, February 14th, which is Valentine's Day. So if you have not gotten a gift for your Valentine, there still is time to do that. But you might want to wait until after this webinar in order to do that. So, so happy Valentine's Day, everyone. Okay. Okay, great. So who is impacted by inaccessible video? Well, when we talk about accessible video, we might want to be thinking about who and how individuals may be impacted by inaccessible video. So users who are deaf, oops, wrong way, pardon me. Users who are deaf, hard of hearing, or who are in a noisy environment, they might not be able to hear the audio. And the solution for that is to provide captions. Now, most video players can display captions, and many video meeting platforms do offer automatic or machine-generated captions, and those can be turned on the fly. So others who may be impacted by inaccessible video include folks who are blind or low vision, or maybe unable to see the video due to obstructions. And the solution for that barrier is to provide audio description. And Terrill's going to talk more about audio description, what it is, and then offer some solutions later on in this presentation. And users who are unable to see the video and hear the audio will also be impacted. And the solution for that is to provide a transcript. A video transcript is a text version of the audio, and it usually identifies the speakers who are speaking if there are more than one, and can sometimes include contextual cues of non-speech sounds such as music or laughter. And transcripts are also very useful for searching keywords and allow users to jump to a specific section of a recording in a video. And there are other examples of people who may be impacted by inaccessible video, including folks who might not use a mouse. They only use a keyboard to navigate. Or folks that use speech input to dictate documents or to navigate and control systems. Other examples include individuals that use screen readers to access information and navigate, or folks with low vision that depend on high contrast or a custom color scheme. And the solution to those barriers is to provide an accessible media player that can offer captions in multiple languages, also offer audio description, maybe ASL interpretation, maybe controlling the rate and the speed of the video playback, and other customizable options as well. How the UW does accessible video. So just to clarify, we wanted to make sure that we presented the differences between the accessibility offices and the responsibilities when it comes to accessible video. Now, if a student has an accommodation, Disability Resources for Students, or DRS, provides funding and support for captioning and audio description of course materials for that student. A Disability Services Office, or DSO, will provide similar services for faculty, staff, or visitors to the UW. Now, DSO also coordinates ASL interpreters and CART captioning for in-person or virtual events. So any requests for those services need to go directly through DSO. Now, Accessible Technology Services provides internal grant funding for captioning high-impact videos in a proactive manner. And we also provide training and support for UW departments as well with regards to accessible IT, not just video, but accessible IT in general. And I'll talk more about the grant-funded captioning service a little bit more in depth later on in this presentation. So this is our agenda for the first part of this webinar. I'm going to be talking about captioning. I'll provide a demonstration of enabling captions and editing captions in Zoom, Panopto, and YouTube. And then we'll take a look at some caption file examples. And then finally, we'll talk about prioritizing and how to determine which videos are in most need of captioning. Okay, so let's start off with captioning. Okay, so in a moment, I'm going to demonstrate how to enable machine-generated captions in Zoom, Panopto, and YouTube. And it's important to note that these platforms do use machine learning and artificial intelligence that translate human speech into text captions. And in the case of a live Zoom meeting, automated captions may not be accurate enough to serve as an accommodation for folks who depend on captions. Even though the accuracy is pretty high, machine-generated captions do lack the ability to convey context of what's happening and often mislabel speakers. And sometimes technical, medical, legal, or other specialized terms, local terms, regional locations, they're not transcribed accurately. And that means that you will need to edit your captions. And I'll show you how to do that in all three of these platforms. But with that said, Zoom's automated speech-to-text translator engine uses Otter AI, and it's pretty good for situations when general content is presented. So what we recommend is if you're hosting an event using Zoom and someone has requested captions as an accommodation, you must make arrangements through DSO to hire a human captioner. You should not assume that automatic captions are good enough for an accommodation. And you want to make sure that you contact DSO with adequate advance notice, as it takes anywhere between 3 to 4 weeks to schedule a human captioner. And it's also really good practice to announce to the entire audience at the beginning of your meeting that captions are available and how they can access them. So with that said, we do have live transcription enabled for this webinar, and you're welcome to turn them on by clicking on the CC icon in your Zoom toolbar. And you can also view the transcript of this webinar at the same time, as the transcript does pop out on the right-hand side, and it usually identifies pretty accurately who's speaking. Now, enabling captions in Zoom, that needs to happen in advance of your meeting, and configuring that when you're logged into Zoom account through your web browser. So I'm going to switch now to my web browser and show you where that setting is. Now, I think it might be the default, but it's always good to check. So I'm logged into my Zoom account online. And to get to the place where you can check to see if your captions are actually enabled, is you go to the settings link in the left navigation here. And excuse me, and then you're going to get a bunch of information. But I have another sub menu here, a sub navigation menu that appears. And in this list, I do have an option for in meeting advanced. And I'm going to select that, and that's going to take me, it's going to scroll me down past a lot of this information, but I still need to scroll down a little bit further until I see the heading for automated captions. So here it is. And I can see that there is this blue toggle that is enabled. So this means that we do have automatic captions enabled for the Zoom instance. Okay, excellent. So when you've completed those steps, you will need to log into Zoom as the meeting host, and then the live transcript button will be visible to you on the Zoom toolbar. And this slide has a screenshot of a Zoom window with the live transcript pop-out window exposed. And the enable button for live transcription has kind of a red marquee surrounding it, as does the checkbox for allow participant to request live transcriptions. Now, selecting those two options will allow participants to turn on and off live captions and live transcript. And incidentally, these steps are the same that you would take if you have someone who has requested an accommodation and you need to assign access for a human captioner. And in that case, you'd select the button that says copy the API token, and that's going to copy the token to the host's clipboard, and then you can paste it into the third-party captioning tool. Now, once your meeting or webinar has concluded, it's going to take some time for it to save that recording to the cloud. And when that process is complete, you should receive an email from Zoom with a link to that recording. And clicking on the link in that email will prompt you to log into your Zoom account in a web browser. And then it will take you directly to the Zoom recording in the cloud. So I'm going to switch back to my browser here and show you where those recordings are located. So I'm going to go back to my web browser here, and I'm going to look at my left-hand navigation, and I do have an option here for recordings. Now, if I select that, it should take me to all the recordings that I have in my cloud instance of Zoom. Now, something to keep in mind is that it takes even longer for the automated transcripts to upload to the cloud, because the speech-to-text engine has to wait for the video to upload first, and then it will apply the machine-generated stuff in the background to caption the video. So what if you've requested that of the service, then what would be useful is to wait for a second email that says that the transcript has completed uploading to the cloud, and then opening up that second email and selecting that link will open the recording in a new browser window. So it'll open up like that. And then from here, if you want to from here, you can play back or edit the recording by selecting this thumbnail. And that's going to open up in a new browser tab here. And you can see we've got the main video window that populates most of the browser window. And then we've got the transcript that appears here on the right-hand side. Now, if you're going to make any changes, it might be best to edit or trim your video first before editing the transcript, because the audio transcript usually does include timestamps for when the text appears on the screen. And if you edit your video after editing the captions, your captions will probably be off. So to edit the audio transcript in Zoom, it's pretty simple. You just hover your mouse pointer over the text balloons, and you'll notice that a pencil icon appears in the lower right-hand corner. If I hover my mouse pointer over that icon, I get a tooltip that says Edit. So I can select that, and then it turns that speech bubble into an editable text field. And from here, I can make all kinds of changes. I can see that Grammarly is giving me some suggestions for my poor grammar. So I could choose to accept those changes or not. I can get rid of this here if I wanted to. And then once I'm satisfied with the changes in this text field here, then I can select this checkbox, and that's going to save all my changes for this particular text field here, or I can select this X, and that's going to reject the changes and just take me back to the original word bubble here. Now, once you've gone through each one of these little word bubbles and text fields and made all of the changes that you need to, you can review your changes just by viewing the video from your cloud recording, and any fixes that you've made to the transcript. They should appear in the closed captioning as well as the transcript itself. Okay, so that's enough about Zoom. I'm going to switch platforms and talk about Panopto recordings. Now, at this time, it's not possible to have machine-generated captions for live Panopto events, but it is possible to have Panopto recordings captioned after they've been uploaded to your folder. Now, machine-generated captions, they are automatically enabled whenever a video is added to your folder. And you can confirm that this is true in your Panopto instance. So to do that, I'm going to go to Panopto and I'm going to go to, to my folder. And these are all the videos that I have in my folder here. And then I want to go to the My Folder toolbar. At the very right, there's this gear icon. And if I hover my mouse over that, the tooltip says folder settings. So I'm going to select that. And I have this My Folder dialog window from here. And then in the left-hand navigation menu, I've got settings, and I'm going to select that. And down at the bottom here, I can see captions. And the drop-down has selected automatic machine captions. So that should be the default. And that's how you can check to make sure that that's true. So now I want to show you how to request automatic machine-generated captions for individual videos that may already be in your Panopto instance, but may not have captions. So I'm going to close out of here. And I am going to, let's see here, I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to select this video here. When I hover over this video, I get these little icons to choose from. So again, I have this gear icon, and if I hover over it, the tooltip says settings. So I'm going to select that. And then from here, I'm in the window for this particular video. And in the left navigation, I'm going to select captions. And then from here, I can request captions if I wanted to, just by selecting this drop down. And one of the options is automatic machine captions. And if you select that, then those automatic captions will be applied. Now, I happen to have a lot of different other options in here because I do a lot of video or caption editing. And these are all paid for services. So if I select any one of these, this means that a human captioner is going to caption my video. But that doesn't mean that the captions are going to be 100% perfect. If we're using a lot of regional terms in videos, those human captioners may not know how to accurately spell those regional terms. And so you may still need to edit your caption file, even if you have a human captioner caption it for you. But you definitely should check and make sure that your captions are accurate if you've chosen machine generated captions. Okay. Now, once those machine-generated captions have completed saving to the cloud, you can edit those captions within your Panopto instance. So I'm going to go back to my list of videos here. And again, I'm going to hover my mouse over the video and take a look at these different icons. Now, this first icon that kind of looks like a movie clapperboard, I think that's what it's called, with a little pencil icon there. If I hover over that, the tooltip says edit. And if I select that, then the video is going to open up in a new tab. And then from here, I've got another left-hand navigation menu, and I want to select captions. Now, there also is an audio description tab in here as well. And I think Terrill's going to talk a little bit more about audio descriptions in Panopto, so I'll let him address that. But we're going to select this captions from the left-hand menu from here. Now, when you do that, there are a variety of things that you can do. You can trim your video using this cut command here to trim it to size and content. And I recommend that you do that before editing your captions, again, because captions use a timestamp as to when they're going to present on screen. So if you edit your video after you've edited your captions, that time might be off. But you can also, there are other things that you can do in this view as well. You can also see when the slides are going to be introduced along the timeline. And then it's also really easy to edit the transcript as well. You can just click your mouse pointer in these different text fields, and that will allow you to make any changes to the transcript as well. The other nice thing about Panopto is that you have this wavelength form that shows the audio of the dialogue of the video as well. So that might make it a little bit easier to do your caption. You're editing your captions as you know, it will kind of give you an idea as to when those captions will appear within that timeline. So once you've made all of your changes and edits to your video within Panopto, you got a couple of different options here. You can either select the apply button, and that's going to save all of your changes with all of the edits that you've made to your caption file, or you have the revert button here. Now, sometimes if you're making a lot of changes to a caption file, things can get really messed up. That's happened to me before. If you select revert, that will take your captions back to the original machine-generated captions, and you can start all over again. So it's just kind of a nice little feature within Panopto. Okay, now I'm going to switch to YouTube and review the options for editing captions in that platform. Now, when you upload your videos to YouTube Studio, captions are automatically generated using machine-generated captions and artificial intelligence. And you don't have to change any settings within YouTube for this to happen. It just automatically happens when you upload a file to YouTube Studio. But automatic captions in YouTube do not include any punctuation or any formatting of the text. So you absolutely will need to edit your caption file to make it more readable. So I'm in my YouTube instance here, and to access my videos, I'm actually going to select the Your Videos option from the left navigation here, and that's going to open up YouTube Studio in a new browser tab. Now I've got my two videos, I've got a couple of videos here listed. And if I want to check the subtitles, I'm going to go ahead and select this one here. And I've got a couple of different places where that shows up. So I do have an option to view subtitles here in the left-hand navigation, but I also have an option down here. And you get slightly different results depending upon which option you choose and when the video was uploaded to YouTube. So I'm going to actually select this option here first on the left-hand navigation menu. So when doing that, I can see I have two options here for video subtitles for this particular video. I have English video language and English automatic captions. Now, when you first upload your video, the only option that you will have is this first option here where it says English video language. Now, in the center column of this, you'll notice that there's the subtitle, and if I hover over that, I get this pencil icon, and the tooltip says Add there. Now, remember, in Zoom and in Panopto, it takes a long time for the videos to be saved to the cloud, and then it takes even longer for the transcript to be saved to the cloud. And the same thing is true for YouTube as well. So if you select that icon for video, for English video language, you'll get a window that will open up, And it will give you three options. And essentially, all these different options are prompting you to upload an already completed caption file that has the timestamps to it, or just a transcript of the video, which is just the text without any timestamps. And YouTube is going to try to do its best to sync up the timing of the text within the video itself. Or you have the option to type in manually for this caption file. However, you can do that if you wanted to, or if you wanted to just wait a little bit longer, then the automatic captions will appear, and you'll see the second line here where it says English, which is the language of this video, and then it also has automatic captions in parentheses. Now, hovering over the subtitles column where it says published, I do, I get that pencil icon again, but this time it says duplicate and edit. Now, I should mention that the length of time that it takes to save the automatic captions, or I'm sorry, the automatic transcript depends on the length of the video itself. So the longer video that you've uploaded to YouTube, the longer it's going to take to produce those automatic transcript. So if I select duplicate and edit, it's going to open up the video in the YouTube caption editor. And you'll notice right away that the machine-generated captions in YouTube completely lack punctuation and capitalization. And so you do need to edit it. But I can't do that quite yet. So if I'm just clicking here in this text field and I'm not able to make any changes. So what I have to do is I have to select this link that's kind of in the upper middle corner, or upper middle rather, of this window, and select edit timings. And that's going to open up the actual caption editor. And I've got a bunch of different things that I can do here. I can delete a caption line. I can also add a caption line. I think I can click and drag these. Yeah, so if I hover my mouse over the little plus that appears in the upper left-hand corner of these dialog boxes, I can click and I can drag them if I wanted to. I can also edit the timestamps of when this information is going to be presented on screen. But what's really interesting about this is in the section just below this video, you can see a wavelength of the audio, kind of similar to Panopto, of when the audio is going to appear in this video. And right above that is the block of text that is going to be presented. So I can edit. Another way to edit when this text is going to appear on screen is I can click and I can drag that block of text along the timeline, and that's going to change the timestamp of when those captions are going to appear on screen. So you'll want to definitely make sure that you're including, proper punctuation in your text fields and proper capitalization. So once you've done that and have made all of your changes, you definitely want to save as you go along. But once you've completed all that, then you can select the publish button, and then that will publish the captions to that YouTube video. Okay. Oops. Okay. When automated captions are too bad to be edited. So sometimes automated captions just are not that great. Maybe there was a lot of technical terms that were used during a presentation that weren't transcribed accurately, or there were several speakers in a webinar and automated captions aren't identifying who's speaking, or could be we're in a noisy environment and all kinds of other information was picked up, or other factors that can contribute to a poorly automated caption file. So this is just a reminder about the UWIT captioning service, or may not be a reminder. This might be new to some of you, but we do have this service where we will caption your videos using real human captioners, and we'll do this for free. So this is a service that Accessible Technology Services manages, and and we provide this service to the university departments without charge. There is an application for this service, and submissions for the service are reviewed by ATS staff. And the idea is to make sure that we caption highly visible, high impact, multiple use videos that are also strategic. And there is quite a bit of funding available. So I highly encourage folks to apply for this service. And I've included a link on this slide if you're interested. Now, for other videos, you might want to consider using the state contract with 3Play Media. The UW has a contract with 3Play Media for captioning services that provide integrations with YouTube, Panopto, and other applications as well. So this slide shows the different caption file options offered by 3Play Media. SMI, SRT, WebVTT, these are all standard file types that are used by popular media players. However, the format for each one of those is going to be a little bit different. So it's really important to know which file format your video player is going to support, as that really determines the file type that you're going to choose when you are requesting captions through the service. And this slide shows us the format of a WebVTT caption file. And you can see it's just plain text with a timestamp associated with when the text is going to appear on screen. And these kinds of caption files can be edited using just a plain text editor, such as Notepad. You don't really need a fancy caption editor to adjust the captions, but it's a lot easier to do that. If you're using a plain text editor, it's could be kind of easy to make mistakes. And that's really going to throw off when the captions are going to appear on screen. So there are other examples of caption editors, including Amara is another caption editor. .sub and Subtitle Horse are other examples as well. So which videos are highest priority? So videos that are required viewing for individuals who need an accommodation would be high priority for captioning, but also videos that are likely to be required for viewing for individuals who need an accommodation should also be considered. So you might want to think ahead of what the needs may be. Other videos to consider include ones that are popular, that are viewed a lot, videos that are relatively new, and captioning should be part of the workflow, and videos that provide critical content. So how do you prioritize your videos for captioning? I'm going to hand it over to Terrill, and he's going to talk more about that.
Thank you, Gaby. Let me pull up my screen here. So we actually have a tool that we have created called the YouTube Caption Auditor. And it uses the YouTube Data API to collect data about all of the videos in a particular YouTube channel. So if you feed this tool your channel ID, then it gives you a list of all the videos with some data associated with those videos, and can be really useful for generating something like what we're seeing here on the screen. This is just a screen capture from I think this is the Center for Neural Engineering. And they actually have captioned 100% of their videos. So this is an older screenshot. But at the time, there were at least 2 videos that were not captioned. And so those show up as no, they're not captioned in the caption column. But you can use this kind of presentation to sort by views is a good way to sort. And that's this particular screenshot was taken with the videos sorted by views. And so they can see their most popular video, one that had over 6,000 views, was not captioned. And so for prioritization, that rises to the top. We've got to caption our most popular video. But it also is an older video. If you look at the date, that was from 2012. So maybe they want to prioritize by date because the newer ones are the ones that people are looking at now. So you can click on the date column and sort that way. And that will give you, a quick glance at which of the most recent videos are not yet captioned. And if you wanted to use the captioning service, maybe the highest priority are the longer videos, ones that are going to take longer for you to do yourself. So you might sort by duration to see which of the longest videos are not yet captioned, and use that as a way to prioritize. So this tool, it is available. It's password protected, so it's available to anybody at the UW who requests access. So that's people who own a YouTube channel or who have influence over YouTube channel. Just reach out to me, TFT, those are my initials, at uw.edu, and I can get you access to this resource. It also gives us the ability to find out who the top channels are and reward those who are doing a great job. So this too is not the latest. There may be some of the folks in this particular screenshot may have slipped a little bit and may now be in the 90% club instead of the 100% club. But at the time, Center for Neurotechnology had in fact captioned all of their videos, as had the Do It Center, UW Compliance Services, UW Continuing Ed, EHS, UWIT, UW Libraries, and UW Records Management. So it's great just to kind of see what percent of my videos are captioned on our channel, and how does that compare with those that are in the top. And you can work, to try and get in the 70% club or the 80% club or 90 or 100. And that is just, kind of a feather in the hat if you're able to do that. So I'm going to move on to talk about audio description, but I do want people to have an opportunity to ask questions about captioning first before we completely change topics. So either type into chat or raise a hand and we can call on you if you have questions. Most of those will be questions for Gaby about captions. And I can't see the chat so well when I'm presenting, so if there are any comments already in chat, then I'll leave that up to you, Gaby, to find those.
Yep, I'll monitor that.
Okay. Okay, well, I'm not. Okay, we do have a question from Lauren.
Hi, can you hear me okay?
Yep, loud and clear.
Um I was wondering, and sorry if you covered this, Gaby, but if you do a recording in Zoom and then download that transcript and get the MP4 file and then the transcript file and upload that to Panopto, I guess my question is doing automatic captioning in Panopto better than doing the captioning in Zoom and then uploading those files to Panopto and going from there? Maybe it doesn't make that much of a difference, but I have that in some notes and wanted to see what your thoughts were. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Lauren. In all honesty, I haven't done a comparison between the accuracy of the automatic captions generated from Zoom as opposed to Panopto. But I do know that Zoom uses Otter AI, which is pretty strong engine for converting human text to machine or to automatic captions. I'm not sure what the engine is in Panopto. So I could take a look at that and probably get back to you. But I would say it seems like a lot of steps to do that. And it might be just worth it to upload if you're going to download your Zoom recording and upload it into Panopto, just use the machine generated captions from Panopto and edit that caption file rather than, editing in Zoom, downloading the transcripts from Zoom, and then uploading that in Panopto. There's a lot of steps there. So, you might have to do some experimenting, but kind of my reaction to that is it might be just easier to upload your video in Panopto and have the automated machine generated captions in there and then edit it from there. Does that make sense?
Yes, thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Looks like there are a couple of other questions in chat. Did you want to go ahead and answer those, Gaby?
I can, you know what, in the interest of time, I could answer them in the chat and then you can continue on with your presentation. Does that sound fair?
Okay, sounds perfect. Great. So we are going to talk a little bit about audio description. And that, as Gaby mentioned earlier, is the solution for video that has content that's presented visually that somebody who cannot see that content is not going to have access to. So if they're listening, they're watching a video, but they're getting everything from the audio rather than through eyesight, then is everything accessible via audio, or is there some content that really is not understandable just via the audio? So the solution is called audio description. It's a separate narrative track that makes that content accessible, that otherwise visual content. Sometimes it's called descriptive video. Sometimes it's just referred to as description. So it goes by different names. There's also a term that's good to know about, and that's extended audio description, which is when it takes more time to describe something than you have in the video, then the only way to describe what's happening is to pause the video, add description, and then resume playback. And so whenever that technique is needed, it's called extended audio description. So sometimes you'll hear that that phrase used. So in terms of prioritizing, really the prioritization is the same for for audio description as it is for captions. Think about who your audience is. Are there likely to be people in that audience who need audio description? Think about traffic. The most popular videos would be, the highest priority, perhaps, or by publication date, more recent videos would be a high priority. If videos are on YouTube, YouTube doesn't have any way of exposing whether a video has audio description or not. So YTCA doesn't help in that sense, but it does help just to sort of sort videos by traffic and publication date. And so, that can be the same gauge that you use for prioritizing for audio description. So again, that tool that we've created, having access to that can be really helpful. Another aspect of prioritizing for audio description is, does the video need description? Because some videos really don't need description. If everything is accessible, if you close your eyes and watch the video and you come away with a perfect understanding of what's being presented, then there's no need for audio description. Otherwise, we kind of break things down into priority using the measures that are shown on the slide here. High priority is when nothing makes sense with audio alone. Medium priority is the video is generally understandable, but critical details are lost. And a low priority is some information is lost, but it isn't really critical information. And so I want to just give a few examples and ask, what priority is this? And I've got one queued up. This is the Together We Will video, a very popular video from UW marketing team, 4.4 thousand views over the last 3 years. So let's just watch a little bit of this. And if you want to close your eyes, that would be one way to, appreciate this video as somebody who can't see it would appreciate it. Or you can keep your eyes open and just imagine what that experience would be like and see, what's happening on the screen that you might be missing. So here goes. So I could go on. Obviously, a very powerful video, and you do get a sense of the emotion there just from the music. But for somebody without sight, that's all they get is the music. They're not getting the text overlay. And so this really needs to be described as a high priority need for audio description in order to make that text accessible to somebody that doesn't have access. So here's another example. This was published on the president's blog in 2016, and it's the annual Best of UW. So this is a video that comes out, I think, every year. But in 2016, let's just see what the highlights were at the end of the year, kind of celebrating what happened at the UW. So I don't need to show you more there. That's kind of the same as the previous video. A high need. Obviously, there's nothing there but music for somebody that's not able to see what's happening on the screen. And so there are three approaches to describing video. And we're going to talk about each one of those now. The first is to hire a traditional audio description service provider. So somebody that specializes in audio description and does this for a living and does a really great job of it. Second is to hire a captioning vendor. So Gaby talked about 3Play Media. We have a state contract with them. And they do also provide audio description as an add-on service. So when you're getting a video captioned, you can check a box that says, I also want audio description for this. The third method is to do it yourself using a timed text file. So a little bit more about each of those. First of all, the traditional description provider, they do, again, a really professional job. They've got voiceover talent that narrates the video after they have scripted it. So very carefully scripted what needs to be said. And that in and of itself is an art form. So a video that has a high need for description probably should go out to the pros because they really know what is the best way to say something. And in as quick a time frame as possible. So the description kind of does what it needs to do, but gets out of the way and doesn't obstruct the rest of the video. The typical deliverable is an audio described version of the video. So they'll create a separate video that has audio description built into it. The typical price range is $10 to $15 a minute, and that depends on the complexity. Also, if extended description is needed where they need to pause the video strategically in order to get the description inserted, then that typically will cost more because it requires more editing on their part. We do have a list of providers. It's getting kind of short because some of them have merged with others, but at uw.edu/accesstech/videos/description, you can see a list of the providers that we have worked with and had positive experiences with. So just want to show that same video that we just looked at. This was actually audio described, and there's a link underneath the video. It says video is also available with audio description. So that's how this could be delivered. Wherever the video is shown, add a link to the audio described version. This one criticism I have is this paragraph really should be at the top above the video instead of underneath, because a user doesn't know if somebody has no sight. They're navigating with a screen reader. They get to the video, they may try to access the video because they don't know there's an audio described version available, and they've wasted their time before they finally get beneath that and discover that link. But if we go to the audio described version, it's also available on YouTube. So let's just see what the difference is in what we just experienced and what it's like with audio description.
Words appear. Hashtag Best of UW 2016. The Nobel Medal next to David J. Tholis. 2016 Nobel Prize in Physics with President Obama. Mary Claire King. National Medal of Science. UW and Microsoft break record for DNA data storage.
So essentially, the narrator is just reading the on-screen text, although there were some additional pieces of information, like the scene with President Obama It does not say anywhere on the screen President Obama, so that's something that got added, a pretty critical detail. And so that's AudioEyes is the company that is on our list, and that's who University Marketing and Communications contracted out to for this work, for creating an audio described version of that video. So approach number 2 is to hire a captioning vendor. So again, 3Play Media can do this. They do it a little bit, the price is a little bit less than what you pay if you use AudioEyes or another specialty house. It's $7.50 a minute for standard, $11 a minute for extended. Additional costs for expedited requests, just like there are for captioning. However, captioning is required, and so that's an essential part of their workflow, even for audio description. And so if you already have the video captioned and all you really need is audio description, then there's not going to be any cost savings, because you have to pay for that captioning, even if you don't really need it. The output is different. It uses synthesized speech, which gets better all the time. It sounds more and more human-like, but it doesn't sound like the professional narration that we just listened to. And so that may not matter for academic content. Research has shown that students really don't care whether it's synthesized speech or human speech. If it's dramatic, then they do care. But if they're just trying to access educational content, then all they really want is access, and it doesn't matter what the quality of the voice is. Again, a typical deliverable is an audio described version of the video. 3Play offers a lot of other choices too, but that is the easiest deliverable to deliver. So you've just got 2 videos, and you provide a link to the audio described version, wherever you show the original version. 3Play Media, this is what the order form looks like. You just check the box saying I want audio description and what level I want and what the turnaround time is. And it does give you a lot of additional options. You've got choices of voices, and this can be really useful if you predominantly have, for example, a male voice speaking in the video. Then maybe you want a female voice. You've got US dialects, you've got British dialects, Australian dialects. And speaking rate, fast, medium, or slow. Our research has shown that US students in the US tend to prefer a US dialect. They tend to prefer a voice that is different than the voice that's in the video, so that there's clear distinction between the two. And a medium speaking rate. Not too slow because it slows down viewing, but not too fast either. Even though people who are blind or have visual impairments tend to use screen readers at very high rates of speed, they don't like to get their audio description at that same kind of speed. So, because it conflicts too much with the speaking rate of the video. And so in order for it to flow and to be a seamless experience, then a medium speaking rate tends to work. So you can set these as your defaults, and that way you don't have to go in and change them every time you order description. But you can make changes on the fly as well. So approach number 3 is to use time text. So this is the same as captions, and the screenshot here is of a WebVTT file. It's the same file format that Gaby showed for captions, but what we have here instead of caption text is description text. So for example, this is from a video where we had the president, and it actually wasn't Anamari, it was our previous president in this particular video, but I made that change just so it would be current. But at the very beginning of the video, our president speaks, and there's an on-screen graphic that identifies the president. That's not spoken in the video, and so that needed to be described, because in this case, the person who's speaking is really kind of critical. That lends credibility to the message if we know that it's the president speaking rather than just some person off the street. And so and then so the president speaks for the first 40 seconds, and then the director of IT policy at Cornell speaks, and so that person needs to be identified. and the president of Oregon State University needed to be identified when they speak at 1:22. And so the audio description is just typed in a notepad. You've got approximate timestamps where the description should happen, and then browsers do the rest with synthesized voice. And so very, very easy to implement using this method. And that's the biggest advantage, is that it is easy. If you've got just a really simple need for description, you can add it yourself just by doing this. This is the preferred method that's built into the HTML specification as of HTML5. There's a new tag introduced for those of you that are HTML coders. There's a track tag with kind equals description, and then the source points to a WebVTT file. That track then, used in conjunction with a video tag or an audio tag, becomes the audio description that accompanies that video or audio file. And so built into HTML5, and that's why it's good to support the standards, and again, it's very easy to do. Another advantage is that you only need one video, so you don't have a separate described version and non-described version. You have one version, and then the user can toggle the descriptions on and off with a button. Also, extended audio description doesn't require a separate video. That too can be built in programmatically, so the video automatically can pause when description is happening and can automatically resume playback afterwards. So this is the approach that's used by Panopto. Gaby talked about captions in Panopto. Panopto also supports audio description. And I've got a screenshot here of a video. This is a video of me talking, and I've got some audio description that I've added. This is the user experience, not the author experience, but the author experience is the same as if you were uploading or editing captions, but you choose audio descriptions, and then you can type in your text at exactly the point at which you wanted it to be announced. There is an AD button on the player, and if a user toggles that on, then the player pauses. The extended description is always on. So this is how Panopto delivers description. It's always extended. It always pauses the video, announces the description text, and then resumes playback after the description text is over. And so this is all being read with synthesized speech. So in terms of the need for description, there's not a whole lot in lecture content. And so most of the videos that are in Panopto are just professors talking. And if they're doing a good job of speaking to the content, as they should be in any sort of lecture situation, making sure the people in the back of the room who can't see what's being written on the board, make sure they understand, the visual content and are being given some description live as part of the lecture content. So that minimizes the need for additional description. But if something slips through and there is some visual content that is not verbalized, then you can really quickly go back in and just type in the description using the functionality that's built into Panopto. So disadvantages of approach number 3, other than Panopto, it's not widely supported, even though this is the HTML specification. So far, it requires Able Player, which is a player that we developed, and it fully supports the HTML5 video standard, including all of the timed tracks that are possible within a media player. And so if you can use Able Player as your media player, then that's one way to use the time text approach and have a WebVTT caption file and a WebVTT description file, subtitle files, perhaps if you have your content translated into other languages. You can also use chapters. So Able Player is a fully accessible media player that has a lot of functionality built into it. And that's what's needed if you want to use approach number 3 for description. Also, it is important to remember that audio description is an art, and if the needs are simple, then it's okay to do it yourself and write your own. But if videos get more complex, it really is best to leave it for the pros. And I've got one final video that we don't have time to share, but that was going to be just an opportunity to look at a video, watch a video that really is going to be difficult to describe, but that needs to be described. Otherwise, somebody who can't see it is not going to have access to it. And that, I'll just tell you, and this can be your homework afterwards. Do a YouTube search for P&G, Procter & Gamble. The video is called The Look. And try watching that video without, imagine what it would be like to understand what's being presented without being able to see it. And think about how you would go about describing that. That's a really healthy exercise, I think, to watch that video with that in mind. So we're out of time, but I'm happy to take any questions about audio description or additional questions about captioning if folks have them. Otherwise, I do want to be respectful of your time, and this is being recorded, so if you miss any last bits of Q&A, then that'll be in the recording, which will be uploaded probably in a week or two.